So without further ado, we're going to get into our first news story, which we have here. So from the Wall Street Journal, um, Twitter investors back Musk's takeover bid after whistleblower testifies in Congress. So the news surrounding this was Elon Musk was a big deal. He was going to buy Twitter. And then he and Twitter kept going back and forth in negotiations, haggling basically over the price. He settled on a price that he sternly said was way above what their market value was. And then at some point, the issue of what percentage of Twitter were just bots came up, and that became an issue that they started arguing over. People thought that he was going to try to use that to back out of the deal in some kind of disingenuous way. It's a Clubhouse buzzword. And but other people are suggesting that what he's really doing is exposing Twitter for the liars that they are, because they're doing a bunch of shady stuff. And one of the things that gave credence to that was that a whistleblower, former employee of Twitter, one of their higher ups, came forward and started airing out Twitter's dirty laundry. And it does not look good for Twitter, and it's helping the crap out of Elon Musk for sure. And so it seems like there's a legal basis now in virtue of the testimony before Congress that this person did under oath, that Elon Musk is going to either be able to get out of the deal entirely and just wash his hands of it, or get out of the deal initially, and then when Twitter's value ultimately tanks, he might swoop in and buy it at a way cheaper price. That's what some people suspect that might happen, but that's really hearsay at this point. And so this is the whistleblower. There's no secret here. It says so the social media platform's former head of security. So this is a person who would be in a position to speak competently about what Twitter's security failings were or might have been. So he was the former head of security. He was questioned by Democrats and Republicans about data privacy. And I'm going to read a couple paragraphs, and then I'm going to get your take on it. So Twitter Inc. So their stock is down. Makes sense. Shareholders approved the $44 billion takeover that Elon Musk is trying to abandon, that a whistleblower alleged at a hearing on Capitol Hill that the social media company misled regulators about security failures. So this is one lies that Twitter has been accused of telling, that he is giving at least some credence to as the former head of security. Former Twitter security executive, I believe it's pronounced Peter Zatko, but he has a nickname, and I can't remember what his nickname is.
Mudge. I think
Mudge. Yeah, he goes by Mudge. Yeah. I lost my spot. Who was fired by the company in January. That backfired on them. Told the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday that Twitter executives' incentives led them to prioritize profits over security, echoing his whistleblower complaint. Twitter has pushed back against his charges and said he was making misleading statements. He was called before the committee for information on his assertions. Now, I'm going to actually show, I want to play for the audience some of the things that he said. And it's going to be a quick thing. I actually saw this clip for the first time on Instagram, but I want to play it here.
There you go. Thank you very much, sir. Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Grassley, members of the committee, I appear before you today to answer questions about information I submitted in written disclosures about cybersecurity concerns I observed while working at Twitter. My name is Peter Zatko, but I'm more often referred to by my online handle as Mudge. For 30 years, my mission has been to make the world better by making it more secure. From November 2020 until January 2022, I was a member of Twitter's executive team. In my role, I was responsible for information security, privacy engineering, physical security, information technology, and Twitter global support. I'm here today because Twitter leadership is misleading the public, lawmakers, regulators, and even its own board of directors. What I discovered when I joined Twitter was that this enormously influential company was over a decade behind industry security standards. The company's cybersecurity failures make it vulnerable to exploitation, causing real harm to real people. And when an influential media platform can be compromised by teenagers, thieves, and spies, and the company repeatedly creates security problems on their own, this is a big deal for all of us. When I brought concrete evidence of these fundamental problems to the executive team and repeatedly sounded the alarm of the real risks associated with them, and these were problems brought to me by the engineers and employees of the company themselves, the executive team chose instead to mislead its board, shareholders, lawmakers, and the public instead of addressing them. This leads to two obvious questions. Why did they do that? And what were the problems and vulnerabilities identified? And that's what I'm here to talk about. So first, why did they do that? To put it bluntly, Twitter leadership ignored its engineers because key parts of leadership lacked the competency to understand the scope of the problem, but more importantly, their executive incentives led them to prioritize profits over security. Upton Sinclair famously said, "It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." This mentality is exactly what I saw at the executive level at Twitter. So what are the problems I discovered? Two basic issues. First, they don't know what data they have, where it lives, or where it came from, and so, unsurprisingly, they can't protect it. And this leads to the second problem, which is the employees then have to have too much access to too much data and to too many systems. You can think of it this way, which is it doesn't matter who has keys if you don't have any locks on the doors. And this kind of vulnerability is not in the abstract. It's not far-fetched to say that an employee inside the company could take over the accounts of all of the senators in this room. Given the real harm to users and national security, I determined it was necessary to take on the personal and professional risk to myself and to my family of becoming a whistleblower. I did not make my whistleblower disclosures out of spite or to harm Twitter. Far from that, I continue to believe in the mission of the company and root for its success. But that success can only happen if the privacy and security of Twitter's users and the public are protected. In accepting an executive position at Twitter, I made a personal commitment to Mr. Dorsey, the board, the greater public, and myself that I would drive the changes needed at Twitter to protect the users, the platform, and democracy. That's what I'm continuing to do here today. I stand by the statements I made in my lawful disclosures, and I am here to answer any questions you may have about them. Thank you.
So I'm eager to get your take, and I want to get you in there. That was longer than I intended, but I did want to play the whole thing because the part that I think the real meat of what I wanted to see was towards the end. What do you think? This are the kind of wider implications of this kind of Twitter thing between Elon Musk and Twitter in light of this whistleblower coming forward?
I mean, I don't know if I'm starting to think that this was Elon's plan all along, not just buying, Twitter and having, control over it, but really just exposing, what a lot of us knew all along when it comes to the manipulation and the tactics that are going on behind the scenes with user accounts, right? So, usually before I wouldn't have cared about this because this is bigger than me. It's beyond me. It's above me now. Is that what people like to say? But because, Twitter has become like the town square, the place where everybody comes and, just speaks their mind shout out the freedom of speech. And the way that's being, I guess, taken away from a lot of people, a lot of prominent people, specifically on, I guess, one side of the aisle. It's interesting to see all of this play out. I mean, I did wonder, okay, who was former owner, Jack Dorsey, right?
Yeah.
When he decided to part ways with Twitter, that was interesting. The timing was interesting. Elon buying Twitter, that was pretty interesting. Now coming all of a sudden to say, like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. You guys haven't disclosed how many bots could or are possibly actually on the platform. What are you guys going to do about that? Can I see the numbers? And then them being so hesitant to give him that information. I mean, I don't know. Like it seems a little suspicious. It seems like they're hiding something. And I think we deserve as users, and I think he deserves as someone that potentially, hopefully, still wants to buy the platform. We all deserve to know like what's really going on, because what has been going on Twitter doesn't make any sense. I mean, I absolutely didn't agree. This is probably digressing, but whatever. But I did not agree with them banning the former president of the United States. I thought that was ridiculous. Again, Twitter's supposed to be a freedom of speech platform. And I know
but he led an insurrection.
Did he? I mean,
that warrant.
Did he?
I mean, the people who entered the Capitol had MAGA hats, and isn't MAGA?
I mean, but I don't know. I just find it. Look, we all heard what Trump was saying, and
yeah, and he. I mean, they were there at a rally that he.
Go to the Capitol?
Well, I mean, a lot of them were there at a rally that he spoke at, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he had his reasons for, I guess, holding that rally, but he also told people to go home. So I don't think.
I mean, after the fact, but that was after.
I don't think
Viking wearing hat motherfucker was in there. They stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop. They scared the shit out of AOC. How dare they?
Those were grown people, okay, grown adults
that were afraid for their lives,
have their own agency, that can make their own decisions. They chose to go there and, act a fool.
To overturn the results of the freest and fairest election in American history, though.
Was it now? Are we going there?
I mean, that's what the experts say. So
I mean, was it? I mean, I don't know. I don't even want to get into that. I just feel like I never want to go through an election like that again. Like,
well, buckle up for 2024. And because no matter who wins, the other side is going to swear up and down that.
Yeah, but the funny thing is the other side. Well, when I say the other side, so I'm a Republican. So, I vote. My vote card. What is it called? The vote card.
Voter registration.
Voter registration says Republican. Even though like I'm not really messing with either side right now because they're both like just birds of the same, wings of the same bird or whatever people like to say. But it's funny enough because the other side, the Democrats started it, right? Like they were the ones saying that, oh, Hillary should have won. The election was stolen from her, and nothing was done about it then. Oh no, actually,
You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to point that out.
I am, but
you sound like Larry Elder right now.
Shout out to Larry Elder. But yeah, like they repeatedly said that her election was stolen. The election was stolen from her. Even with what's her name? Old girl from Georgia, Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams has come out publicly and denied that she ever denied the results of the election in Georgia.
That's so interesting. So that's so convenient of her to do that. But go off.
Stacey Abrams would never lie. She would never do that.
Hypocrite.
She also denied that she was ever for defunding the police.
Anyway, did you see the press conference with Corinne Jean-Pierre and Peter Doocy when he confronted her?
That is the most entertaining thing I have ever. Peter
Doocy,
and Jean-Pierre is that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I love watching it. I love it when I'll be sitting there waiting, like, pick on Peter Doocy. I want to hear what he has to ask me, man. Because I want to watch you stumble and
She's a
stutter
mess.
over your words, even as you
She is a
break glass ceilings as the first queer Black woman in your position. She's shattering glass ceilings.
Shout out to identity politics, I guess.
Right? Right?
But yeah,
she doesn't need to be qualified.
I love to hate, like I hate to love. Am I saying it right? Because I don't like her, but I love watching her stumble. I love watching her try to pull an answer out of her bum, right? Because she has no either. I've said this. Either she really has no idea what she's talking about, or she has every intention of just lying, like just straight up lying.
She's just not good at it though. Like Jen Psaki was better at it than her.
Way better. At least she didn't need to finger through all of these pages of documents just to read verbatim.
Okay, I'm going to be fair. Kayleigh McEnany used to be flawless with that binder. She used to have that binder. She used to thumb through while they answer questions. Go to the page and be like, "Bow," and even answer right there. And what? Like I used to be like, "Dang, that's impressive." But Jean Pierre's trying to do that.
Though you couldn't tell because.
But Jean Pierre's trying to do that, but she's not good at it. It's like
she's not good at it.
I feel bad for her. Like it's actually embarrassing.
I had some media training.
It's literally embarrassing.
It is. She's. I mean, I'm not embarrassed because
I'm embarrassed for her. Even people I disagree with, I feel something when they are put in positions where they look really, really bad. Like for real.
No, I mean, no, it is embarrassing for her, but meaning like I'm not suffering from any secondhand embarrassment just because she's Black, and I happen to be Black as well. Like she doesn't represent me, so I don't care. But yeah, no, she should absolutely be embarrassed.
I mean, she kind of technically represents you as a Black woman.
How so?
Because that's how wokeness works. Even if you disagree with her, she's supposed to represent you because her skin color is similar to yours.
I do not associate or negotiate with wokists.
Wokists?
Can we call them that?
I call them the woke. The woke. Okay. So we got a couple minutes left. I do want to go back to the subject matter proper. We did take a slight detour, and that was my fault. But to go back to shout out to detours. But to go back to Elon Musk, so like what part of what's I think at stake for a lot of people is, for better or worse, Twitter has become something of a public square, and it's where a lot of political discourse happens. It's where a lot of influentialness. Or it has become influential in our social politics, and in our culture, I should say, is the word I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And so controlling Twitter gives a person a control over those things. And so I think that people on both sides of the political aisle have a vested interest in having some degree of control over it. I think people right of center don't want to control it so much as to make it fair, because they seem to be operating in a way where they feel confident that their ideas are going to win out, and that they don't have to give outsized influence on those ideas, that the ideas can win on their own merits. Right. People on the left typically are operate in a way where they think that no, they need to guarantee or rig the game in their favor so that their ideas win out. They don't seem to think to have as much confidence in their ideas generally. There are some on the left. There are some on the left who do. Shout out to them. I think that those are the progressive types that are more careful and more well thought out in their ideas. And they're way more formidable because of it. But I think what they do is they undermine whatever's valid about their side when they give credence to the blue and pink hair wearing motherfuckers that say increasingly stupid shit in service to an increasingly absurd and quixotic ideology that makes no sense. Right. And it defies common sense and logic. So such ideas as the idea that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man by fiat is a ridiculous idea. The idea that we need to get rid of all police everywhere because of a few police that have perpetrated injustices against Black people or whoever, and that we should take away all of their funding and reallocate them to other places is stupid. It's always been stupid. Yeah, and it'll always be stupid. These are terrible ideas. The idea that we should have an open border policy and then pretend like it's not an open border policy as record-breaking numbers of people flood into the country, and that to do this is to be compassionate and be concerned with human rights, all while a subset, and it's a minority to be fair, but a subset of the people who are coming over the border are actually doing nefarious and illegal shit. They're bringing drugs. They are selling it here. They're trafficking people. They're trafficking children. Right? Now, again, it's a minority, and I think that people left of center and the progressives have a point about that, because I think a lot of people on the right get so bogged down about that they over-exaggerate. They make it sound like 90% of people who are coming here illegally are doing nefarious things, and that's not true. So they have a point. But they go the other direction and they act like 0% of them are doing nefarious illegal shit. And that's dumb. That's obviously false. Like, we can prove it. We detained them. We have the evidence for it. Like, this is well documented. Like, so I don't know, man. And on immigration, I tend to be, actually on most issues, I tend to be in the middle. But the way I split the difference is I do think that we should have the right to enforce our border laws. And it is the job of Congress to change those laws in such a way if you want to have a more amenable, open door policy in terms of who we let into the country. But that's Congress's job. That's not the president's job to do arbitrarily by executive order, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of my stance. I also disagreed vehemently with Trump's criminally prosecuting illegal border crossings and separating children from families, because in a lot of those cases, people who were legitimately the children of certain family members were separated, and then it was really, really difficult for them to find their family again. And that was because of the government's policies. I don't think that was justified. That was inhumane, right? Then what doesn't help those actual instances of injustice is when you have Democrats who are politically motivated to exaggerate what's going on and make it sound like every single detention center is tantamount to Auschwitz or some shit, and that what we're doing is something akin to what they're doing in China with the Uyghur Muslims. Like, what? Like, there are some places where they were dilapidated conditions that were not conducive to children, and actually I think it was like 6 or 7 children died on U.S. soil, very, very young children, because of things related to, like, the bottles that they had their formula in weren't being washed consistently. They didn't have diapers, and they were forced to wear the same diapers for weeks. Like, all of those things are like big no-nos when it comes to taking care of young children, and these facilities were not prepared for those young children to be there. That's a failure on our part. We deserve criticism for that. And when the children die, that's an indictment on America. Those are fair criticisms, right? But making it sound like Trump did that to every kid that crossed the border is stupid. Like, that's not what happened. And so, like, I don't like the exaggerations and the theatrics, and AOC fake crying in front of these detention centers, calling them concentration camps, and then the very same detention centers under Biden, she ain't got shit to say. He's using the exact same detention centers, bruh. And actually, those detention centers got started under Obama, and you didn't say shit then. But when it's under Trump, somehow magically, like, they're fucking concentration camps, and you're crying about it for real. Like, I don't like that type of stuff, man. That pisses me off. So,
I mean, I love being hypocrites.
Yeah. So come back. Well, but there's hypocrisy on both sides, to be fair. But to come back to Twitter, I think what the vested interest in is Twitter has the ability to bolster certain ideas and kind of manufacture consent in a very effective way that makes it seem as though certain ideas are bigger than they really are. And I think that that's the vested interest in controlling a space like Twitter. What do you think?
I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like somebody is behind the scenes. You know how you can like, and somebody's like moving a button up on the leftist postmodernist
they're boosting the leftist
ideas, and then someone's lowering the what you like to say, the right of center ideas. That's what it feels like.
Hey, don't try to quote me. Don't try to. Those are my isms. Those are my isms.
But that's what it feels like to me. I mean, obviously, I'm in my own, like, I'm not like anything on Twitter. I just say whatever I want on Twitter. And obviously
don't get canceled. Don't get canceled.
Are they? I mean, will they? I'm not a big enough.
Only if you get famous. Only if you become famous.
To bigger accounts.
Yeah, only if you become influential, then you're a threat. And so
so I'm not influential yet. So I mean, I can say whatever I want now. I feel, but hopefully I'll still want to say whatever I want if and when that happens. I don't want to be.
I mean, if you, I don't know, man.
Into not saying what I, speaking
of. It's hard if it's tied to income. It makes you think twice.
Yo.
I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm not famous now, but if this becomes successful,
I'm not gonna lie. Every other day, I'm like, do I need to make my account private?
I'm embarrassed by some of the stuff Facebook be showing me that I posted a few years ago. Like, man, I was really on one. I don't even think that no more. And it's only a matter of time before somebody stumbles on that shit and be like, oh, you think this?
What's funny? But you know what's funny? I've done it once, and I plan on doing it more. So. Obviously, I have access to my Twitter account, so I have access to my old tweets. So what I did one day as a post on my Instagram is I went back and looked at some of my views on
I remember that post.
white privilege.
I remember that post.
Yeah, and you know,
I judged you so hard. I was like,
I mean, that's fine. Like I was judging myself really hard. I was like cringing. I was like, oh my God, I felt like this.
You used to be woke as hell. Like, God damn.
Like that. I don't think it was it genuinely wasn't my fault because I wasn't raised like that, right? Like my parents didn't like they didn't say much of anything about white people, and then also like that's all I had heard in school. So I just thought like, okay, school, this is school. They're supposed to be teaching me, unbiasedly. So maybe okay, they're right. And then you start, but when you start looking around you and interacting with people that don't look like you, and you realize, wait, this is like, am I supposed to be listening to what they're telling me in school, or am I supposed to be looking at what I'm actually experiencing in real life? And I just started, basically, I mean, 2020 was actually the turning point. I think it was a turning point for a lot of people, right? Because I still felt some type of way, even though I wasn't experiencing any of this like supremacy or white privilege in my own personal life. Because of all of that rhetoric that's been pounded in my head for years, I just believed it. And then 2020 came and I was like, wait, was this all a lie?
And I think that you're kind of partially
The pandemic was a blessing.
But I think you're partially exemplifying the mechanisms that Twitter operates on, which is that people are constantly bombarded with information in the ways that information is transmitted via Twitter. And there's certain ideas that they're constantly heavily being pushed, and it does shape their conception of reality socially and politically. And so they get imparted certain ideas, and Twitter has a way of just of sometimes at least deceiving people into thinking that certain ideas are more popular or commonly held than they are.
Or everybody believes what they believe.
Yeah, because all they see is evidence that everybody thinks a certain way, and so it has a social component. It hinges on a lot of different social mechanisms, but one is the one that we know colloquially as peer pressure. It has a peer pressure component. You feel pressured into adopting views that you may not even necessarily really agree with, but you'll come off as if you do because there's all kinds of benefits to it. You'll be able to fit in. People won't judge you. You won't get canceled.
It's the cool thing. That's exactly what I was trying to tell people, like with that post. Like it was the cool thing to do at the time, to hate, not hate on white people, but just not like them for no particular reason. Like it was just something that everyone was doing, and
normal.
It was normal.
I've never been on board with that, but I understand that dynamic of people who do that. And so a lot of times I actually am patient because I feel like it's not clear if you actually believe this or if you're just saying this because you think that's what you're supposed to believe.
Exactly.
Particularly if you're a black person. Because black people will look at you sideways and act like you ain't black.
And I'm already trying to fit in as an African.
So then there's even more pressure for you to be more austere and bold in your black consciousness. But these are the social dynamics that leftists in general are aware of, and they take advantage of, and they use these things to move the levers of society in their favor. And a lot of times they do it, I think, illegitimately, meaning the ideas are actually bad, but they're convinced that they're not. Because that's some strong ass Kool-Aid. Wokeness is some strong ass Kool-Aid, fam. Like it is.
But I do think, even though I'm on the right of center, I do believe that I do believe that there are a lot of people on the left that do have good intentions with
I do
all
too.
the things they're purporting.
I do too.
It's just stuff that their ideas just run amok. Like they don't know how
they're uncareful, and there's a cultural milieu where they're encouraged to be as radical as fuck, and not really think things through, not really think through the practicalities of the positions. So like if you wanted to think through the practicalities of defunding the police, that position will become stupid instantly if you really thought about it. It's like we have laws, at least some of those laws are just laws. So for example, a law like we don't want people murdering other people in cold blood. Like that's a pretty good law. That's not a law that I'm against. That's a law that most people favor. Insofar as you have any laws like that are justified, that are reasonable, then you're going to want some kind of mechanism of enforcement, because laws are only as strong as they are enforced. And part of that enforcement mechanism is society, at a societal level, are police. So there's a practical necessity for people to police. particularly when it comes to violent crimes. And if your disposition towards the police is that they're all bad apples, they're all inherently white supremacists or some shit, that the structure itself is inherently white supremacist and meant to police black bodies, if you genuinely believe something like that, then you can convince yourself of something that I think most people with common sense would identify as dumb, which is that we should get rid of all of them everywhere, period. Like, that's not a smart idea. That's a stupid position. It's really dumb. Now, should we reform it? Yeah, of course. I don't believe that all cops are good either. I think that that's the opposite extreme. I think that some of the more patriotic MAGA people are talking about police like all of them, like none of them are corrupt anywhere. Like, nah. It is not until the raid on Mar-a-Lago where they start feeling like, okay, now I'm against law enforcement in the form of the FBI.
People have already, FBI is kind of different. Like, people have
still,
always,
that's fair. It's not, they're still a form of law enforcement, federal, right? They're not localized in the way that most police are, for sure. There are differences, and they're not trivial differences. But what I'm saying is the attitude against enforcement in general by the more patriotic right of center types manifested itself only when they saw what they thought of as clear examples of the rights of certain groups of people that they agree with being violated. Then that's when they started to kind of tacitly agree with some of the stuff the progressives were saying. And the progressives always had some validity to criticizing law enforcement, but some of them went so radical that they actually, and they got an outsized voice over the more careful people, that they actually undermined their message and undermined their reform.
Isn't human nature a beautiful thing?
Human nature is a complicated thing. I'll tell you that. Humans can be fickle. All right.